Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Lowdown. Today I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by the CEO of Okkulo, Mel O'Connor. Mel, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure, Connor. Thank you.
Mel, firstly, tell us about Okkulo. Tell us what it is and how the vision for Okkulo came about.
It's a massive long story, but I'll cut to the chase. I'll simplify it. I literally 20 years ago, I saw a scientist who was working on the visual delay and of humans and simians actually. There was I was playing football at the time, league tier 11, but I also had a background in film and television. I was looking at how light works through a lens. I just hit upon this science about the visual system being delayed by Professor Lindsay Sharp. And I had a hypothesis is, well, if it was delayed, what would happen if you put a football or a baseball there? Professor Lindsay Sharp was based in Newcastle, totally by chance, on a sabbatical. I rang the number, he answered, and I was down in his house about 20 minutes later talking about how the visual delay would help an athlete. We did some studies at Durham University to understand that, and we'll expand a little bit more on that later on. Fast forward 15, 20 years later, we've been researching. Now we've built the system, not from those rudimentary light levels that we created with Professor Sharp, but now we have these certain steps. We've got a journey. We've come a long way, and now we know that we're using the vision as a doorway to performance. So that's what Okkulo is. We create these ambient light levels that create this doorway of change for the athlete, and it improves visual processing. The economy of movement makes them react faster, and it's all done using a biological process. And we'll kind of get into that, and I'm sure in time during this interview, and I'll explain a little bit more about how we do that. But that's essentially what it is. It's an ambient a system with ambient light levels that create change for the athlete.
Well, and researching for the show, Mel, you've been a break dancer in the past, footballer, costume designer, film director, anything else I'm missing? You've had quite varied career path. Why did you keep pushing for Okkulo, a project which was really 20 years in the making?
That's a great question. I think that just going back to the initial bit, I was born in 1975. The 80s was and breakdance at the time just came along and hit. It was like a wave of to everybody in the Newcastle region, and I was always intrigued by something. I lived in a council estate, and I was always kind of intrigued by something out of the ordinary, because it always seemed to be quite mundane, and so I would almost latch onto something that was quite interesting, and that kind of started with the breakdance. And then I started playing football. I was getting involved in that and hanging around with different people. When it came to Okkulo, it was the same feeling. I couldn't, once I came across this science, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I thought, I wanted to do something that could make a difference. And I thought this was kind of my calling. It sounds weird saying that, but I felt like it hadn't been done before. And I really just tried to chase it, and I couldn't stop it. And somebody once said to me, I used to be on Biker Grove. I used to work on Biker Grove. It was a TV show in the Northeast, and one of the main actors in that is a great guy. Does a lot of talks now, high performance talks. And he said, the brightest ideas burn bright, and they don't stop burning. And it was that, and it kind of was always there. And so I really just started to chase it and really delve deep into the visual performance and what this delay would mean. So I think, I was never going to let it go. I'm not somebody to do that. So I wanted to see it all the way through.
Fantastic. And growing up within that time, were there perhaps, Mel, any mentors who encouraged you to pursue the extraordinary? Because as you alluded to there, it can be quite a lonely pursuit at times.
Yeah, I think that's really again another great question. I'm an only child, and I had my mum and dad. We were very close knit threesome. It was really I had a lot of love and still do, and that kind of give you the base to explore those things. They would never say, right, you need to go down this path and that's it. You need to follow this. It was always, well, just explore that if that makes you happy, and I certainly do that with my children now. And at the time, it was in the 80s. Newcastle was quite a dark place at times, certainly where we were in Gateshead. There was the coal mining had stopped. There was a lot of unemployment. But I think the role models at the time were obviously my mum and dad when that first started, and then and they instilled that in me, and I've made sure while I go along my journey, I work with like-minded people. I've got a really good opportunity here, and to build the business and to build a business in my eyes. So I've just kind of really hung around those, and in the filming side, I kind of got to be creative and express those things. So that was always going to be a natural progression. And this, I feel, is kind of a natural progression again. And with Okkulo, I'm building a business like I would build a team in production. A film that's going to win an Oscar will have the best actors, the best script, the best costume, the best design. So, and it's not rocket science. But I'm trying to do that, pick the best people and put the best people in places where we need them. And I have no ego. There's a lot of areas that we need help, and I've managed to get the right people in, and I'll continue to do so.
That's fantastic. And there's that saying, Mel, that some of the best ideas come from just being outside the herd, and that's typically what you've done, in fairness, when it comes to kind of using these cross-pollinatory forces. But you touched on it there about building a team. I mean, obviously it's a team like no other, right, too, because you're trying to withstand disapproval, trying to innovate at the speed of change. It takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of work. You say it's not rocket science, but how do you approach that process?
Do you know, and that's it. When I came up with this 20 years ago, it was you think, I've got a great idea here. This is you opening up something. When we did the studies at Durham University, we found we could get them back up to 99 miles an hour, 4.5 hours. You're going, this is fantastic. We'll speak to the clubs. They'll go, all right, okay, we'll try that system. You think it's going to be a simple process, and then when you actually get into that, now we've built the product. We've gone out of R&D. We're speaking to the clubs. We've got a great network. Even still, they still say, right, well, okay, well, show us how it improves, show us how that works, which we've done, and we're doing that now, and obviously we've got the data to show that. But also, we're creating a whole new area. Vision is untapped. It really is, and certainly in the way that we're doing that, using the vision from the eyes to the brain to muscle, doing it in a contextual environment hasn't been done before. So we have a lot of barriers to break down, and that is it's a relentless pursuit, and one that we're not stopping at, and we're getting over these hurdles. We're speaking to some fantastic clubs, and we've had some fantastic performances. We've just got to continue to do that, and the way to do that is to show that we are the leaders in vision. So we speak to all of the brilliant vision experts: Patricia Rodriguez, Daniel Levy, Cheryl Calder. We speak to them all, and our own vision scientist, Professor Andrew Stockman, is there to back up the science. So it's definitely a hard thing to do, but I do believe that we're getting there. And once people understand how important vision is, 80% of the processing information comes through the eyes. The brain's dedicated more to vision than it is to any other sense. If you can get that right, you're going to create this next step and absolutely improve the athlete significantly. Arsene Wenger said the next frontier is the brain, and we're using that. I like the brain and muscle. So there's a lot of hurdles in our way, but I do believe we are getting there, and being there, using the vision and showing how important vision is absolutely key to the whole thing.
You touched upon him there, Professor Andrew Stockman and the guys at Durham University, who you worked alongside to study how the effects of which your technology has on that visual adaptation. I mean, what does the research say, Mel, about how this impacts football performance?
So the initial hypothesis was, okay, there's a delay in the visual system. We know that. We know how it's delayed, and we know how we do that. The studies at Durham University, that was done with a really rudimentary visual ambient setting. Now we have 4 different steps, and we use the color spectrum as to create the ambient light levels, and they have different effects as well. So we know the delays between 10 and 25%. We do 4 steps within that. So it takes it down from 10%, then a 15%, then an 18%, then around about 23 to 25% delay. But each level has a different effect on the eyes. So the blue light level, we find that's incredibly good for focus and attention, and that switches the athlete on. We can see that it's almost like flicking a switch. We've had people with ADHD who some don't take medication when they're in Okkulo. There's something we'll touch on that a little bit later on. There's a lot of work to be done, but it's incredible. Then you go down the other light levels. Green, we're using that a lot for peripheral vision. Red for motion and depth perception, and the full Okkulo, which is the 4th level, for all of the above and more. So there's a definite step there, but we know there's a delay. We know that the athlete is economizing their movement. We can see that they're economizing the movement by around about 20%. So that's and this is the explosiveness of movement. So when they go in Okkulo, so say we've done this without external technology. When they're in normal light levels, the muscle give off an output of a number 10. That's the output. It's a number 10. It doesn't mean anything to you, but in the context of this, I'll explain. When you go into Okkulo, it drops to about an 8. So that 20%, that's almost matching the processing time is being taken away in Okkulo purely because the athlete is finding it more difficult. So the muscles aren't as explosive, but that gradually goes up. But when they go back out into the normal world again after Okkulo training, the muscle number jumps to a 12. So that 20% that they've banked in Okkulo, which great manages the workload, which is excellent, is utilized back on the pitch in the normal daylight. So we can see that marrying up. We use external technology for reaction time. We're seeing up to 40% in reaction time alone. So the numbers are all there, and it all marries the science and also they're looking at the athlete, and the athletes themselves will tell you, and the coaches and the practitioners, it's clear as day.
Yeah, and I think that's a good one to touch upon because, I mean, it's on your website, Mel. It's a big mantra of yours that your mission is to turn the marginal gains of elite athletes into exceptional gains, whatever their sport. I mean, 2 questions there. I mean, what does exceptional gains mean, and how exactly does the technology work to achieve this?
So that when we did our first studies with Salford City, we used the goalkeeper Vaclav Hladicki and all of the goalkeeper department through Carlo and Nash. He was excellent. He just kind of he took Okkulo as a blank canvas, did everything in there. And when we intervened with Vaclav, he was doing okay. But by the end of the season, his clean sheet percentage went up for the lower 30s up to 50%. So every other game he was having a clean sheet. Which is great. His save percentage went up to 80%. He was saving more. We know he was because he could move quicker and he could see the ball quicker. So he was doing that. But by the end of the season, he was the 2nd best performing goalkeeper in Europe. He had the most clean sheets in England with 23, which is huge, and that massively increased from Okkulo intervening. And then so that was just him alone. Then, and these are all single case studies, but we've had thousands of athletes in there. Then we went to Sunderland. We ended up getting the assistant to Sunderland. We moved it in there in February. They've lost 6 games, I think, in that time. It's been multiple managers. Our main case study, Luke 9, has improved on all of his key metrics. It's not marginal. We're looking at it's huge increases there. And the goalkeeper Anthony Patterson, again, our goalkeepers typically go to a 50% clean sheet and an 80% save percentage because they're saving more, and they're better able to save shots. So the gains aren't small. They're mirroring around about the 20% mark, which is an improvement in movement and reaction time, and how that is and how we do it and how that impacts in sport is the important question, because people asked us that initially when we first started. Okay, so how does training the vision affect and an economy of movement effect for going on the pitch? By giving the athlete quicker movement and a faster processing time, we're giving them more time to the quicker to control the ball, so they can feel that they're controlling the ball quicker, and then they have more time to process and create the right decision and take the right decision. In Okkulo, we create all of the different light levels. So we have scanning, peripheral vision, motion depth perception, all key to help improve the vision. And all of that means when they go back on the pitch, because we slow down the game, and it's a natural biological slowing down of the game, they have more time. So they just have more time to do the core tasks that they need to do. And the goalkeepers can save more because they can move quicker and see it. And we're seeing the benefits. We only use really match stat data at the moment to quantify how Okkulo is doing.
Not being for goalkeepers, Mel, quite isolated position at the pitch, but you just touched on Luke 9 there, an outfield player. And how do you guys measure success for outfield players?
Yeah, so we have our internal Okkulo score. So we base that on, we use a ball machine just to regulate the score. Some people initially, when we first started, they were saying, well, it's just a ball machine, Okkulo. It's not, it's actually about the ambient light levels. But we have our own Okkulo score, which is based on the ball machine firing a ball from 30 miles an hour up to 70 miles an hour if you choose to do that for an outfield player and a goalkeeper. And we have a control zone, so we can detect if the athlete controls it in the area. And then we have goals all around the arena and a target wall, and we can understand, and we can see if they can finish quickly, do the scan and look behind and pass to them behind, or we just replicate the game and the contextual movements in Okkulo and give it a score. But we understand that's our internal score, and that's fine, but it's not independent of Okkulo. So we get out, we use outside technology. We were coming across other companies and other people were saying, well, we've got this technology in. And we were saying, well, instead of just saying, well, you should really take Okkulo, we're saying, well, no, well, we'll compound that technology. We'll make that technology better because we'll give you the faster vision and the faster movement. And so now we do that, and we've not partnered, but we use a lot of other companies that are external tech to quantify that. But the main way of doing that is actually on the pitch with the metrics on the pitch. So when we had Lowdown, he was coming back from injury. We did the first case study was to bring him back and to hit the ground running. So we had to get him up to speed. They needed him back quickly. They wanted to get promotion, and we did within a week. When he could kick a ball, he was out on the pitch. On the 7 days later, he went out on the Tuesday, came on the pitch, looked like he hadn't been away, scored the goal 5 or 6 minutes later, and then they ended up winning 3-1. And the next day, the press put in Lowdown's stunning return. It was in the Sunday Echo, and we knew. I was crying at the game. We could see that movement. We knew what was going to happen. We could feel that. And Luke said he wished he'd said, that was an Okkulo goal, and because he certainly felt it. So yeah, I think that we're quantifying a lot of ways. But that our Okkulo score, the game stats, and our own vision experts will tell you exactly what's happening.
And obviously, it's one thing, Mel, having access to your guys' equipment. It's another thing being able to use it in the right and correct manner. I mean, obviously, Sunderland is best case in point. They have their own Okkulo lab there, so they've gone all in on you guys. But is there any key common denominator within teams availing of your equipment and their success?
And so we only have, at the moment, we're new. We're really new. We launched last year at Leaders last November, and Sunderland was our first club. We needed that first club to understand it, so we could understand how it works within a club and what it's like to operate within a club, and how we link up with all of the departments. And at Sunderland, we do almost 40 hours a week now. It's touching on 40 hours a week from academy to first team. So we're seeing this whole improvement, and within that, people that are doing more time in Okkulo have better metrics. Lowdown did 220 hours, 220 minutes last month, and his passing percentage is up 8%. We've got a new system at a sporting university. I'm not really allowed to say because we haven't put that out yet, which is great. It's a fab system, and we're starting to work with some real key sporting associations. So we're starting to see it there. But yeah, we're new, so we're only really using Sunderland and Salford City as our case studies at the moment. But we're seeing those trends within the system, within the club. The more you use it, the better you get.
And obviously, you spoke about Lowdown availing of the equipment for 220 minutes. I mean, is there a minimal effective dose? Have you guys studied that in terms of garnering a certain percentage and improvement?
Yeah, it is. We want at least 2 50-minute sessions a week. So we want at least half an hour, optimal time an hour a week if you can get in there. But it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get up to speed. Once you're up to speed, we just maintain. So if we can get a good 45 minutes in a week, that we're happy with that. But half an hour is the least that you need, and we'll get it there 3 or 4 weeks, and then just maintain through the light levels and use the light levels when you need it more. So we do solo play, or we do partnerships. So we had Lowdown. He moved from centre midfield to right side of centre half. Came to us and he said, right, I'm moving to the position. I need to understand how I'm going to receive the ball, where I'm going to take it. So we worked on those contextual movements within Okkulo, and then we work with partners in and around that. So a fullback or a centre half, where's it going to go? And we work in those real close relationships and improve that as a whole as well. So I hope that kind of answers the question there a little bit.
You did, of course, but I mean, it's very interesting zooming back out, I suppose, because you touched on it earlier on. I mean, you guys are quite new. You launched at Leaders in Sport last November 2021.
Yes.
It's obviously it's going to be tough to be a disruptor in any industry, right, Mel? But I suppose a better question would be, what would be the one thing that you were not prepared or not expecting to meet in the football industry?
I think I'm from the film industry as well, and so I've worked in the film and television industry, and I know how kind of insular it can be at times, and that's not a bad thing, because I understand that and I understand how it works, and this isn't really a negative, to be honest. But what we've found out is that we need to. Clubs just don't accept it. They'll not just accept the technology, and nor should they. They shouldn't just go, right, well, we'll just take it because of what we say. We understand that they need to try the system, and that's key. So the main problem for us has been actually demonstrating the system to clubs, because taking the system somewhere is a real expensive deal for us. So having the Sunderland, that's why having the Sunderland in this university in tandem there is there to help people go into the system and actually get in there and actually try it and see it. No matter what we say on the website, no matter what we put out on video, until you get an Okkulo, that's when you see it. And when we get everybody in, that's where we start to make the traction. And everybody who's been in, we still speak to, and we're organised, and we're moving forward with those clubs. So I think it's definitely getting the traction within the club first, and then getting them to trial the system. There's definitely been a hurdle there, but we're getting there. We've built a great network, and clubs have been brilliant, been really receptive to Okkulo. So that was the one major hurdle that we had to get around.
I think when you're in there too, right, Mel, I mean, it's a two-way street in terms of communication. You can see why people at clubs can be quite apprehensive of this quote-unquote isolated training, because, I'm assuming in season, I'm being logical as a coach myself. I mean, I don't want too much cognitive fatigue from my players. When you guys are coming in, I mean, how do you ensure those communication levels remain not only accurate, but they remain at a high level between both parties?
Yeah, that's brilliant, and that's really important to us. So when we were going into the clubs, first thing we did was we spoke to all of the departments and said, right, this is what we do. We've gone through, we spoke to all the coaches. We did a session to open up and explain how Okkulo could help each department, and then put together a plan with every athlete. So we have independent performance plans from academy up to the first team, and we work and stick to that. Our workload, we manage the hours. So we actually manage the time that the players are in, and we work with all of the coaches from all of the clubs to understand when and
So as we were discussing, Mel, I mean, you guys going into the clubs, right? And I assume it's a two-way street in terms of communication levels. I mean, how do you ensure that remains to be the case, that the communication is not only accurate, but also timely, and also it's still ongoing between both parties?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, Connor. So when we went into Sunderland, we spoke to all of the departments. We spoke to the medical, coaching staff, data analysts, sports science, and we got everybody together and we taught them what Okkulo did. We made sure to brief them and to let them know the do's and don'ts, the limitations, and what Okkulo can do to each and every player. Then we set personal plans for every player from academy to first team, and we made sure that we worked within the workloads, managed the games, so that we have certain times where we put them in game day -1 or +1, and we really work with the club just to make it really seamless. And in doing so, we've created we have protocols within Okkulo where everything is documented. Everything's documented, and everything's we'll have clarity from Okkulo to the coaching staff. We're in their environment, so we need to fit into that. I know Prozone did that years ago, 15 years ago. They had a Prozone room. We have the Okkulo room, and we make that the focal point of everybody, but we make sure that all of the information and everything is passed through and everybody's on board with everything that we do. And that's got to be clear. We're working with elite level athletes, and we know how fine tuned they are, but also the club know what we can do and know how important we are to the players. So it's been quite an easy two-way street. They've bought into what we do, and they see it. They see the improvements within the club, and they're seeing the improvement on the pitch.
Fantastic. And I mean, with that being said, Mel, then what would you say, I suppose, would be the one piece of feedback that you guys have taken on board and actually have integrated within your operation?
Yeah, I think it's that's a good point. James Young at Sunderland's been absolutely fantastic for us. He was key to us going down there, and he understands. He could understand the technology, and he sees the technology, and he's seen the technology in operation, and is absolutely blown away by it. But he has said, you've got to our Okkulo score. We've understood that there needs to be more to that score, and taking a lot more information, and we. And also in the way that we write the software and how that's going to be integrating with other potential software or other potential technology coming in and making that easy for the club to see. And it's more from that side and understanding how best to show that the data, and also to write it and implement it. So I think that's been the biggest thing for us. They've been fantastic on that side. When we go to a club, we're all ears. We're just learning. We're just babies, really, in this game. So any information like that has been fantastic, and we have no ego within the business. So yeah, but I would say that's it. It's more about how we kind of define our data and how it's processed and delivered.
And then, to wrap it up, Mel, I mean, a company's so invested in the marginal gains. How are you and how are the guys at Okkulo ensuring that you remain on top of your game? Because obviously with vision, with the neuroscience, the research is still coming out. And, I assume that you guys are robust and resilient enough to adapt and integrate that and move again.
Yeah, and this is Okkulo is just the beginning of what I had in my head anyway, and now we're starting to see it's far bigger than, not that I imagined. It's we've learned a lot more that I didn't expect, in other aspects of what's happening cognitively. So we have a full strategy for the next 5 years of where Okkulo is going to be, from the elite level athletes to and the clubs to the performance and to the general public for some of the things that we're seeing with the ADHD and the other side effects. There's some incredible findings. So there's a whole strategy around where we get to. But the main way we're going to do that is utilize the vision experts and we have fantastic information within the company. We are the leaders in this in contextual play through the vision system. We're the company to do that, and our main focus is on showing why we are the main company and get these vision experts. A lot of the vision experts are coming to us because they see Okkulo and they see what it can be. So a lot of the focus will be on showing how vision is important in sport, and not just important, but critical in human performance. And that's my big push, and the company's big push. We're all vested. I've got a great team. I get phone calls at 11, 12 o'clock at night, messages at night going, "Oh, I've just found this." Everybody's so dedicated because we know what we can do. So I think, it's our mission to make sure that we show clubs and athletes that training in Okkulo and train the visual system like this will give them that extra, that significant gain.
And then for anyone who is wishing to thread a similar path as yourself, Mel, anyone that has an idea that they wish to bring out into fruition within the footballing industry, what would be the one piece of advice that you'd have for them?
Yeah, I think what I did the first couple of years was to really look at the people involved in sport, identify the other technology that's out there, identify the key players, and build up a network. I think that was really important, and build it up in the. I used LinkedIn a lot actually initially to get started, but it was actually finding out the industry itself, really hone into that. When I was filming, I watched movies. I didn't actually go to university to study filming and film techniques. I learned it. It was a lot of hard work. I was studious, and I watched movies. Quentin Tarantino said, he went to the University of Film, and it's right. And I did the same. And coming into this world that I'm in, it was a different world to what I was used to. really got honed into how it operates, who are the main operators, who are the people at the clubs that we should be speaking to, and just really getting to know the industry. And it's not rocket, that isn't rocket science, but it's important to do that homework. And I spent 2 or 3 years doing that, and that was really important. And then you've got to have the energy to push it through. Like we always thought, there's a lot of hurdles, but we just keep going. We know what we've got. So it is a lot of hard work, and yeah.
Mel, this has been a conversation I've been looking forward to a long time. I think it's great to see what yourself and Okkulo are doing in the industry, sparking seeds of change. And this conversation hasn't disappointed at all. Where's best for the audience to keep up to date, keep up tabs with you and the company's journey?
First of all, yeah, I have as well, Connor. But and I think the question here has been outstanding. I've really enjoyed this. I think it's been a fantastic interview. So thank you so much for your time. Honestly, it was brilliant. The questions that you asked were outstanding. Follow Okkulo on. We're really building our YouTube channel now. So there's going to be some exclusives on there from the clubs and university and other clubs that we're speaking to. We've got a lot going on in the US now. There's something happening elsewhere that's really exciting. So there's some real fantastic developments coming up. But check out the website. We'll be updating that regularly. A YouTube channel and LinkedIn we use as a major part of our social media. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out, and thank you so much, Connor. Really enjoyed that.
Pleasure is all mine. Thanks so much, Mel.
All the very best. Thank you, Connor.